Good evening. Welcome to our February 4th Town Council meeting. I will call this meeting to order. Just to note that we do have Councillor Bevan joining us virtually online tonight. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqawak, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Epitimiswak Métis nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Can I get a motion that the agenda for the February 4th, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the January 21st, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Moore.
I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We have no public hearings, no presentations, or delegations tonight. The first item of business is under bylaws, presented by Denise McDonald, our acting chief financial officer, joining us online on the aerial fire truck debenture bylaw number 2321. Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Before you is the aerial fire truck debenture bylaw number 2321. Oh, I am on it. Are you effectively seeing my screen? Or I have the wrong screen maybe?
I think you're sharing the wrong screen.
I apologize. Give me a second here.
There we go. I think we're good now.
You have it now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Before you is the aerial fire truck debenture bylaw 2321. The background for this is the debenture bylaws follow the legislation of the Municipal Government Act, Section 258, capital property for long-term borrowing. This bylaw establishes the maximum thresholds. The amount we're looking for is $2,750,000. Maximum interest rate would be 6% or as set by loans to local authorities from time to time, and the term would be set up as 20 years. The bylaw is presented for first reading prior to advertising for 2 consecutive weeks. There's a 15-day petition period where electors would be required to submit a valid petition to the Chief Administrative Officer. Petition rules are set out in the Municipal Government Act, and the number of petitions would be required would be at least 10% of the population. This notice to the electors that's in the package tonight would be advertised for the week of February 10th and the week of February 17th. Then there would be a 15-day petition period, and it would return to council March 18th for second and third reading or a review of a petition if valid. Administration would be very mindful of the current interest rates and would consider our opportunities to draw funds at the lowest rate possible, as well as we will be seeking alternatives for funding if available through surplus or grants as we proceed. Administration recommends council give first reading to the aerial fire truck debenture bylaw number 2321. Back to you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for your presentation. Council will open the floor to questions for Ms. McDonald, if you have any, or comments. If not, Councillor Bevan, are you good?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. I will take a motion, please. Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
Okay, so the motion, hang on a second, get it right. That council give first reading to the aerial truck bylaw number 2321. The fire truck debenture bylaw, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Chenard. I will open the floor for debates or any further comments or questions on this matter. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to council and anyone in the gallery. I think we did speak about this at our last council meeting that when looking at funding this, this kind of borrowing is something new for this council. I don't think we've passed the debenture bylaw this council in this term, but this is one way we can get the services and items that we need, and that not only the people now living in Edson pay for it, but in the future paying for it too. If people move away or people come to Edson, this is a guarantee. And this is not to say it's going to take 20 years to pay it off. We may pay it off sooner. Ms. McDonald had alluded to the fact that if we have surpluses, if we have other ways and means to pay it down faster, then we will. I think this is the best way to get this item and to get it as quickly as possible. And yeah, those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Council, any further comments? Go ahead, Ms. McDonald, before we go to Councillor Chachka.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, what we will investigate any opportunities in 2025 to reduce the reborrowing requirement. But once the debenture it's determined which options to choose for the amount and the term, that gets locked in. And the only time that debenture can be reduced is it's called stop loss penalty, and only time that it is effective to pay it off would be to do that at once. You can't like pay a number of times throughout the term. So once it's established, it's done unless you want to stop it. And the best, as my thinking, I lost my train of thought there. The best option of a stop loss penalty would be if we got an interest rate that was low and the interest climbed really high, then we wouldn't get a penalty. If it was the opposite, then we would pay a penalty to get out of the debenture.
Thank you for that, Ms. McDonald. Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the mayor to council and those in the gallery or listening online. I know when this first was brought to council back in October, we had some lengthy discussions about it during our budgeting process. So this is not a new discussion. But the thought about taking out a debenture is I guess unusual. I could say for what we've been used to. But I think for Councillor Taylor said like there are some right reasons to be doing this, and over the past several years we've been gathering more information on our financial situation and what that looks like in the short term, the medium term, and the long term, and we know that we're getting a multiplex on the go, and that our reserves will be dipping to a low over the next couple of years while we take on that project, and this. By taking out a debenture, we can ensure that we have proper cash flow, that when emergencies come up, that we can address them. And then also over that medium term, we have the ability to start building up our reserves as we looked at in our during our budgeting process. So I like how this is done up. I appreciate all the effort that administration has put into it, and even though I'm debt averse, I think this is the right thing for our community because a community doesn't get to retire. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or concerns on this item? So Councillor Bevan, do you have anything before I make my comments? Okay. So yeah, we've talked about this at length on October 19th and then once again on November 13th. And then last meeting, we had a great discussion about it as well. And during those discussions, one of the things that I've talked about is I don't like borrowing for assets such as fire trucks, but we have a lot of emergent projects that we've been dealing with in terms of flooding concerns in the community and upgrading our underground infrastructure, and we need to have that flexibility if another emergency arises. So no doubt we're going to know what our year-end surplus is here in a couple months, and that will allow us to hopefully not utilize a full 2.75 million. It's really important that we have that flexibility. This council is the one that's responsible for fire service for this community, not any other municipality. Other municipalities have their own priorities. We are an incorporated municipality that is responsible for that. We have a number of high-value assets, which I've talked about before, from Parkland Lodge to a hospital to schools to Weyerhaeuser to Pivotal, and we need to have adequate fire protection. We're replacing engine 604, which is 19 years of age, which no longer can be a frontline engine. And the best value for dollar is upgrading now, not 3 years from now when we already have a new fire engine. So I'm certainly in support of this. I do hope that we bring that 2.75 million down, but we'll see what happens with the year-end surplus. And for any members of the public that are unhappy with us borrowing, they do have the opportunity to petition against it, and I encourage them to get involved if that's the way they feel. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We are going to move on to business items presented by Clayton Kitlitz, General Manager, Infrastructure and Operations, on extended producer responsibility. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and Council, tonight we're just providing an update and asking Council to accept the update as information. We've started this journey to be participating in an extended producer responsibility way back in the fall of 2023 when Council passed a motion for us to become a registered municipality with the program. And then back in the summer of last year, we had another decision point in front of Council where we were given an option either to opt into negotiations with the PROs. PROs are producer responsible organizations. They act on behalf of the producers to deal with this program. So the option was to opt in, where we as a municipality would negotiate directly with these PROs for the materials, or opt out, which meant our service provider would negotiate with the PROs. In our case, our service provider is the Edson District Recycling Society, and they've spent the last 6, 7, 8 months in the trenches working with the producers to work out all the fine details of this program and how we can meet the targeted April 1st implementation. I think it's important to acknowledge the amount of effort that EDRS Ann and her staff have put into this. I know I've been into all the meetings and discussions that she's been involved with, but I do know it's been a lot. And I think the thing to understand is it's not just the town of Edson's that they're working on. It's Hinton's and the other counties as well. So it's a monumental amount of work, and need to acknowledge the effort of that group to do the heavy stick handling on this. So with that, I'm going to invite Ann and her team up to provide some of the details and some of the journey that she's been on as we get closer and closer to finalizing some contracts towards the April 1st deadline. So thank you, Ann.
Well, fancy. Okay, and I think I start, I guess, how do I news, okay. So, actually, I think a number of you have been to a lot of workshops, a lot of information gathering about EPR. And that stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. The idea is that it moves the cost for recycling from municipalities to producers to pay for that system. It is an extremely complicated system. And as I can say, with Clayton, it has been a revolving, changing of landscape over the last year and a half. So whether it's personnel, it's the methodology, the budgeting that has gone around, but we're down to 2 months, and it is crunch time, and it's getting a little clearer, maybe not, but it is progressing. So I think most of you, just as an overview, so EPR is split into two things. One is PPP, which is print, paper, and packaging. And the big thing that we need to realize, it's residential only. So if what they mean by this, if you have a system, let's say Yellowhead County has trailers in Evansburg and Wildwood, it's not going to be funded because it's not manned, gated, and supervised, because there might be some commercial coming in there that they don't want to pay for. So it is very strict on that. It's residential only at this time period. It might eventually evolve, but it's not there. Pro in that case is circular materials. So they're headed out of Ontario. They actually, I think, look after Ontario's and BC's. So you're talking to someone that sometimes is not up to date on rural Alberta or the distances. I can have a communication with them and say, well, it's 100 kilometers to Hinton or otherwise, or Hattonford has maybe 100 people or 50 people there, but you still have to service them. So it is starting April 1st. We have been negotiating with Circular since last fall. So it's how do you compensate for this service level? It has to be the same service level as prior. And so what we do have here in Edson, we have a high service level. So even looking at toxic roundups or other things, we got more service availability for residents, and they have to keep that level. So it has changed. I've gone through different scenarios of how to compensate, maybe 3 or 4 different. And you get used to it, and then someone would move on, and you'd have another person that you had to negotiate with. So originally there was pockets or envelopes. So we would get money for processing, so much per ton for processing, so much per ton for handling the material and getting it off to market, and so much for holding a depot and having that accessible, and then so much for P&E, for promotion and education. So that all got scrapped at Christmas after I went through numerous scenarios. So now it's down to, we'll just give you so much per metric ton for handling the residential, whether it is, you have to take care of everything with it, whether it's Hinton, Edson, or Yellowhead County. So it doesn't matter where this material came from. We'll just give you this amount. And there's been a negotiation on it because, believe it or not, Edson's is way, way cheaper than Hinton's when you put in $1 per ton. So we're at that point. We're ready to sign on that. They even said we get to keep the material, which is not in any other location. So that is interesting. So we're to this point of looking at that, but it is only for residential. So that means the contracts we have currently with the town and county include commercial. So we've got a guarantee that the cardboard coming in, and Jonah's worked on this, is separated commercial and residential. We have to keep a really dedicated number of how to figure out the volume for that month and keep it separated. The other one is something called HSP, which is hazardous special product. Once again, residential only. What the big umbrella of household hazardous waste covers everything that people bring to the roundup. HSP is a special little portion of that, which is about 40% of the material. You need a science degree to figure out what is included and what's not. For example, Drano, which has the symbols of being a hazardous material, it actually can be dispersed down the sink or Lysol down the toilet, so it's not included in HSP. Same thing as personal care products, hair dye, nail polish remover, spray on, bug spray, anything like that, if it can be disposed down the drain or in the air, it's not included. So it's a pick and choose. So what they've done is they've done pilots. So let's say last year when we sent in our toxic Roundup materials, they went through it completely and said which is would they fund and what they wouldn't. And the base is about 30 to 40%. It's a complicated system, I will tell you this. So when we do a roundup or if we do any kind of event throughout the year, we have to send in the bills that we get, send it in to them. They say which is acceptable or not. And it's about 40% of the disposal of that item. They also give us so much per pallet of material, which is something special for Edson and here because they never offered this to anywhere else, but it's been a lot of complaining that I have done. But in essence, it's so small. I mean, last year we did 30 pallets of 150, so about $5,000 back that we will get. But who knows if we really will or not. This will be something that we will find out. So as it says, HSP covers approximately 40% of what we consider as HHW. A municipality has a choice. If they sit someone and hire someone to sort it and figure out what is 40% or what can be, they will get reimbursed for it. But if you take in the whole amount, you still pay for, because it is stuff going in the landfill you don't want in the landfill. So 100% of the municipalities are opting for collecting everything and just seeing what is acceptable or not and getting reimbursed. For the pro for this is Product Care, which is another group, but they're so underfunded. They tell me they only have like $200,000 for the whole province, which is nothing. Like for ourselves, we would get 10 or 20,000. We're just one little municipality, so it is an awkward system, and it has to meet so many guidelines. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. So the EDRS has a current contract with the town. Historically, it's a joint contract with yourselves and the Yellowhead County. It expires, the current contract, June 30th of 2025. Contract is split currently 65-35 with the town and county, is for residential and commercial. So that's key. It's for both of those. So, they're looking at taking care of the residential portion only. And so the commercial still has to be negotiated whether with the town and coming up with a new contract, or the county, which we're in the middle of, and the town of Hinton. Current contract depicts the depot hours and the level of service and what is collected or not. So the total contract for last year amounted to $399,000 for the town of Edson. That was for commercial and residential. So EPR are currently underway, and so the agreement we'll have with the pro is for all the residential material. So it doesn't matter where it originates, anything else. We're tweaking our inventory system, and Jonah's working on that, is to then, it's the reporting of that afterwards. So we're going to have to show weight slips, sheets from the baler, what's made, average weights. It's going to be a whole learning curve for ourselves. And God only knows when you send that in, when you'll get paid, but I'm sure we'll get paid within a month or two. So it's a whole change for us in a cash flow. So the contract would run April 1st till the fall of 2025. So, or 2026. So at that point, they will be looking at, currently their mandate is to switch anything that has a garbage pickup would then turn into a curbside pickup of recycling, and they would handle the contracts. Now, I think there's enough loopholes in there. If they find out it's way too expensive or the distance for some of those municipalities, I think there's going to be some jockeying over that. But there'll still be a depot in Edson because you still have multifamily, which we're not sure where that's going to go. You still have rural area because those are not garbage collection areas. Your certain products such as styrofoam, glass, film will still have to go through that depot system. They're looking at bringing the glass and from other communities into Edson and then processing it there, or bringing other items to us and we would charge a certain dollar value for it. It currently looks at that is equivalent to around 25 to 30% of the current town EDRS contract when we look at it. Currently, the split between commercial and residential is at 70-30. So if it ends up at about that 30 mark, it's quite close with the figurings that went about. That is because, as Jonah has done, he's done a number of trials and pilots throughout the last 2 years to see the total volume coming in and how much cardboard is actually commercial, how much is residential. Basically, the only interface that we have between commercial and residential is cardboard. The rest is like plastic containers is 100% residential. Tin is 100% glass. All of those items. I think this is it. So we'll need to recreate a contract for the remaining services. And those services include for commercial residents or commercial materials are the plastic containers and bottles, plastic bags, there is a little bit coming in from there, but the biggest thing is cardboard for sure. And things that are commercial and residential, which are not covered under EPR, is used engine oil, oil filters, oil jugs. And this goes across, there is a lot of town residents and a lot of county residents have those materials. There's batteries that are not included, although that comes under another program perhaps. Twice yearly toxic roundups in Edson. So that is not, it is, some of that cost might be deferred, but most will not. The compost drop-off area, paint aerosols and containers, fluorescent light tubes, household hazardous waste, take it or leave it, the education and programming, community garden, and promotions. So there's a lot of chunk that is solely commercial because none of it is paid for. There is some residential that will need to be looked at. And so again, that HSP is residential only. It is, it's going to be a learning experience as to how that works out and how the refund or rebate is done. So I think it's going to be an open page between us and the town as to when that happens, we look at it, see how much came back and see about taking that off the contract, or how we're going to have to look at the easiest, simplest way to do it, because this is a very complex system. I would not count on how much we're getting back until the first submission. So future consideration. Yellowhead County, in the conversation I had with them last week, that they were interested in having an individual contract with EDRS. So splitting those, they didn't think there was an advantage for it necessarily, because county also has egg plastic they needed added. Their system is a little different. We're very fine with having separate contracts because we're going to have a separate one with Hinton also. But what we would stress to both the town and county is we need the same building blocks. We need the same items being accepted. We don't want to hire someone to go out in our parking lot and say, no, you're a town resident, so you guys participated in the oil program, but you're a county person, so you can't bring it, or you can't go to take it or leave it, or you can't. So that is what we ask, is that the terms be similar and also the products in there, because that's one of the nastiest things. We're very integrated, town and county use of that facility. I would say an 18-month contract so that it ends at the same time that hopefully Product Care has looked at how it's going, and so it's also maybe, and as the county said, then an option to extend it at that point. The county is actually, so what they're doing this fall is they're going through all of their contracts with the current providers for their 15 transfer sites in the landfill. So that's going under contract this fall. So they're looking at RFPs for it. They're actually even looking for an RFP for the depot, but they're going to rush it through and have it probably so that it meets that April 1st deadline. There is no other providers. It's a more of a process. Then they have to, actually the county has to go and do another RFP to get people to service the county 15 sites for picking up their residential recycling. So it is very a complex system. We're following, I'm in contact with my partners in Athabasca very closely, and theirs is even a more complicated system, but making sure that we're getting in the same ballpark.
All right, well, thank you very much for that in-depth presentation. I know we were lobbying for EPR for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and now I wonder what we asked for.
Well, I'm wondering too.
Yeah. Council, any questions for Mr. Kitlitz or Ms. Oriad? Go ahead, Councilor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Ann.
Yep.
Will this change of contracts and such make any difference to your staffing levels?
I don't think so. I mean, this is going to be, we're trying to, instead of just having a really nice contract with the town and county that was easy, we're going to end up with, and with one for Hinton. We'll have one for Hinton, one for Edson, one for Yellowhead County for commercial. We'll have one with the pro for all of the materials. We might have more contracts with them for providing service for Whitecourt or otherwise. It just becomes a little more complicated, but I have a really good staff, and I think we've been working on it. And right, Jonah? So it's gonna work out. It just is a different way of doing it, and change is always has its hurdles, but I think we can get through it.
Council, any other questions, comments, concerns? Councilor, actually, we'll go to Mr. Kitlitz first. Go ahead.
I could have went last, Mr. Mayor. I just want to sort of summarize the next steps, so I can wait till after.
All right, go ahead, Councilor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz, in the RFD, you mentioned about Yellowhead County citing uncertainty with EPR negotiations between EDRS and Circular Materials. County administration recommended the RFP process. Was there any elaboration about the uncertainty that is had in that process?
Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's for you. Actually, that was just sort of, I took that wording out of their RFD that they produced to their council, so I don't have an elaboration on that. I was just sort of summarized from the RFD that I. spread from there. So I plan on having, post this, I did mention to them that after our council had a chance to get an update, I'd reach out to the Yellowhead County admin and we'll start talking about all these complexities on contracts and how we're gonna have to stick handle it over the next month or two here, so.
If I may comment, I think the county has gone through, as you know, probably a lot of changes over the last year between the staffing for solid waste and for the landfill. And so they're playing catch up. So I think
Comments, council? Mr. Kittredge, do you want to summarize the next steps?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as mentioned, lots of complexities still to figure out for us. We potentially have 2 contracts to negotiate. There's gonna be a lot of work, I think, over the next month here. As of April 1st is the deadline, we're gonna be bringing back some contracts here for council in March sometime. So that's really our next steps. So we'll be hitting the books hard, trying to figure out the complexity of that as I mentioned, the HSP
yeah.
will be quite different because just the way it's just totally different on how it's provided. So there may be some growing pains, but I trust that they're the experts in this field, and I couldn't begin to wrap my head around all the complexities of the stuff they have to do. So we're very grateful for the work that Anna and her team have done to get us here. So quick turnaround, more to come here in the next month.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kittletz. With that, council, I will take a motion to accept the extended producer responsibility update as information. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I so move.
All right, thank you. Any further questions, comments, or concerns?
The one interesting thing is styrofoam will be,
Sorry, we're taking a vote right now, so
Oh,
we can't.
sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot.
This is just the council only portion here, sorry.
Yeah.
No other questions, comments, or concerns, council? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And we'll get Jean.
Well, the one interesting thing is the only item that is in their program that we don't currently cover is styrofoam. So that will be a little learning curve how we do styrofoam because we will be wanting to keep on the same program as what EPR is. So styrofoam is the only item that we have to add.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Oriot, and thank you and Jonah for your work on this. All right, we are going to move on to council committee reports, and we are going back to January 21st. We'll start first with Councillor Bevan, who's online. Do you have anything to report? All right, nothing to report. And does everybody else want to just queue up for me, please? Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, quick report, January 28th, YCE committee meeting for the multiplex, February the 3rd, youth council, and before the meeting tonight, we had a housing strategy meeting. That is my report.
Thank you. Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. On January 21st, I attended the council meeting, 21st, and then on the 23rd, I attended a Community Futures West Yellowhead IRC meeting. We are about halfway through the grant that the federal government provided to Community Futures to disperse funds to the Jasper businesses. We're about halfway through that $3 million with a deadline of February 28th to submit all of the funds. Following that, we had a Community Futures West Yellowhead board meeting, just a general update there. And then on January 28th, I attended the YCE Multiplex Committee meeting. And on January 29th, I attended the Attraction and Retention Committee of the physicians, Nedson. So a little bit to update there. We had an approval with the foundation to send some people to a trade show in Winnipeg. It's the biggest rural doctors conference that they have. It came highly recommended to attend to try to attract doctors. So we will be sending some people there for that. And then, what else do we got? There's some update on the government recently announced a change in the compensation model. So we had one of the doctors kind of provide us with an update on that as well. Initially, it seemed really great, but there are some stipulations to it. So they're still working through to see if that's more attractive for physicians to work in a rural area. We got an update on a few of the positions that are vacated in Edson for healthcare workers. So there's a couple here and there on some different specialty areas. And notably, though, that for the first time in 3 years, all of our addictions and mental health positions are filled. So that's really fabulous news. A challenge with that is that the doctor that was present said that there's still a 3 to 6 month wait time for non-emergent mental health help. So even though we're fully staffed, so there's some challenges there for sure. The committee is going to draft a letter for the community to kind of introduce themselves to the community and what they're offering and what their role is with this. So that will come forward shortly. And I think that summarizes that. And then later, or I guess earlier this evening, I attended the housing workshop. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Chachka. Councillor Taylor.
On January 29th, I attended an FCSS meeting where we did some planning for our strat planning session, which is coming up later this month. We also spoke about possible guidelines for groups applying for the FCSS grant, which is to apply for now, and you can go to the town website to look for applications for that. Yesterday, February 3rd, I attended a youth council meeting where the youth council unanimously supported sending a letter of support to SEAT because SEAT is looking at installing some new bike racks at the library, leisure center, and Griffiths Park and applying for a grant to do that. So it's great that youth council support that initiative. Earlier today, this afternoon, I attended a homelessness task force meeting, and earlier this evening, I attended the housing strategy workshop, and that is my report.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Schnard.
Okay, January 23rd, I was in Hinton for Community West Future, what's it called? Confused, West Yellowhead. I was taking Councillor Bevan's place, and earlier this evening as well, the housing strategy I attended.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. January 21st, the council meeting. January 27th, I attended virtually the Yellowhead Regional Library orientation. A couple of points from that. AI concerns. One example, they received a notification of one author who published 47 books in a year. I don't think that's really possible. Maybe 1 or 2 possible. I don't know. Generated material they get from AI, and usually the library professional can tell whether it's been generated by EI, several spelling errors, etc. System received 3 security attacks in December. All were turned away, not successful. And another note, YRL will not pay hacking ransoms. That's it. That's what I have. Thank
And
you.
the housing today.
And the housing today. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. On January the 22nd, I attended the Marketing and Retention Subcommittee meeting, which is a subcommittee of ARC, which is a subcommittee of the Community Care Foundation. We spent a considerable amount of time talking about strategies, talking about what other communities are doing and how we can stand out as a community above others, especially going into this conference in Winnipeg. The doctors, local doctors who have attended this conference before has noted that Alberta is like invisible at this conference. So this is really an opportunity for Edson to really put our best foot forward. And so we talked about some strategies. I'm not going to share them publicly. We don't want to give anybody any ideas, but a lot of work is being done there. I do believe the chair of that subcommittee is planning on coming to council with some thoughts on ways that we can stand out above other communities in terms of trying to both attract and retain our current medical professionals. So I look forward to that. I think we met for like 2.5 hours. January 24th, Just going to mention quickly that I attended the Food Bank Volunteer Appreciation, where announced that the Mayor's Golf Tournament this year, the proceeds will be going to the food bank. So mark your calendars on August the 22nd. They are in desperate need of support. As we all know, the cost of groceries keep going up, and the demand has never been higher. January 28th, the YCE Steering Committee meeting. Lots of progress happening there. Look forward to a future update with the community here soon. January 29th, the ARC meeting, which Councillor Chachka, Councillor Chachka, really highlighted well. And then the housing strategy meeting was a little late for that this evening, but attended that as well. And that is my report. We have no information items, no notice of motion, no closed meeting session, no business arising from closed. So I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.